Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the Shea Station podcast, the newest Mets podcast brought to you by Jomboy Media. This is episode 11. The date is September 13th, and I'm one of your co-hosts, Jolly Olive, aka Jack. You might know me as one or the other. And joining me today is the left-handed reliever. You probably know him well at this point if you've been with us for the whole ride. It's Jerry Blevins. And Jerry, we got some exciting baseball to talk about today.
Yeah, I am so excited. You got to live it live. I got to experience it from afar, watching on TV. I'll tell you this, though, as great as they did on the broadcast with the tributes, I missed the SNY booth.
Oh, dude, I know. It really does suck that Gary, Keith, and Ron got deprived of basically the two best games of the year, even though we didn't win one of them.
The truth is, normally I would switch over and listen to the radio broadcast. And listen to Howie and Wayne. Howie's not feeling great. He's under the weather, just had a medical procedure, which is a whole different thing. Send my best to Howie Rose. But I just had to watch. I actually like Joe Buck.
I don't mind Joe Buck. I really don't.
But it's, I wanted to hear what the complaints were going to be about. And I understand. But it was really, really a beautiful weekend of baseball. Wonderful Mets baseball. Pure fire. Tell me what it was like being, there.
Yeah. I mean, so I got a text the day before from good old Jim, aka John Boy, shout out to him. And he said, "You want to go to the game?" And I said, "Of course." Are you kidding me? Obviously. We get there. We got to meet a bunch of fans, which was awesome. A lot of Shea Station listeners, which was a pleasant surprise because, we're relatively
this was yesterday's game. You were at game 3.
Yeah, I was at game 3.
Okay. Yeah, just making sure.
Yep. And then we were on the left field side. And, it's kind of a weird thing to watch a game with friends, but be the only one rooting for a certain team where everybody else is rooting for the other team, especially when your team wins in dramatic fashion. Because I'm jumping up, I'm screaming, I'm high-fiving people I don't know, and I turn around and I see a line of people that they just want to die. They look like they have death in their eyes. And I turn and I'm like, oh, should I not be celebrating? But I'm like, wait, no, Lindor hit 3 home runs. I should be celebrating. So I had to deal with that conflict all night. They were very understanding, though. A bunch of them told me they were happy only for me, which I appreciated. But it was such a blast. Probably the best game I've ever been to. And I've been to a couple playoff games too. Both of those were losses, sadly. But I'm hoping maybe we can see a playoff game this year and I can go to that instead. But yeah, this was probably the best game I've seen in person for sure. And that stadium was loud.
Man, the environment just came through the TV. I could feel it. You could see it. You could see the effect it had on the players. It just elevated everything. That was like quintessential New York baseball. Like whether it was a Subway Series or a big, the 9/11 weekend, but you could just feel it. There's moments in New York sports history. We had opening day a couple of years where it's just sitting so high, the adrenaline. You can't help but feel that elevated status, and that's one of those moments as a player where you just feel so blessed to be in an environment that's like that, where there's just so many people that feel it, and you elevate your game accordingly. And the Mets definitely did that. It was pure entertainment.
Absolutely. And I'm glad it was one of these roller coaster games that was just exciting from start to finish, because that was a 4.5 hour slog. That was a long game. Those two games.
And it started at 8.
It started at 8. That was ridiculous. I got a bedtime, man. What's going on? Yeah, but game 2 and game 3 were both the longest games in Subway Series history. They broke the record one after the other, which I thought was pretty interesting. But we got 3 games to recap. I guess we'll just dive right in, right? We're riding high from the energy. Might as well. So I guess we'll just kind of jump in with the first game here, which I kind of honestly forgot about with how exciting the last 2 games have been. Even though this was a great win for the Mets in the first place, they won the first game 10-3. Tyler McGill was a really big standout performance for me here, especially because our starting pitchers haven't been having such dominant performances lately. He kind of stumbled in the first 2 innings, and then he just settled in real nice after that Gallo home run. 7 innings, 2 earned runs, 10 strikeouts, 4 hits, 1 walk. He set career highs for innings pitched and strikeouts in a start. So that was a big moment for him because he's been struggling recently. This is the most he's pitched in his career. So you really didn't expect this kind of outing to come out of him, out of the blue, really, against a pretty good, potent Yankees lineup. So that was awesome to see. We were tied at 1 after the first, but then Gary Sanchez failed to tag Jonathan VR on a single to left field that he probably shouldn't have been waved home on. But Gary kind of caught it, just stepped out of the way and tried to do an Olay tag, and it really just didn't work. I still can't really explain it. I think that play's gotten kind of swept under the rug because of everything that happened after. So good for Gary in that regard, I guess. But the Mets would put up 5 in the third inning on some more poor Yankees play. This one was just kind of an ugly game to watch, and I kind of felt bad for Yankees fans a little bit here and there in this game. McNeil had a really beautiful bunt hit, which I loved. I yelled for that because he's been struggling, and that was like a perfect bunt in a key spot that caught everyone off guard, which I thought was awesome. And then James McCann, who really looked like he's figuring out how to lift the ball again, had a big 2-run double in this game. Javi Baez went 3 for 4. Lindor added his first home run of many, and it was multi-hit games for VR, Conforto, and McNeil. The Mets wrapped this one up pretty easy, 10-3, headed into the next day, which was the 9/11 tribute game.
Yeah, I just want to shout out McGill right there. He really stepped up, and it was a shining moment for him because he's kind of had a little bit of unevenness towards the end. Like you said, this is his most innings he's ever thrown, and this is a part of the season that you can't prepare for because you just don't do it when you're in the minor leagues. This is all brand new for him, and you're in a hunt, so everything feels even more on edge. Every single pitch he throws is high leverage because the season hangs in the balance. And for him to step up, go 7, which is huge, punch out 10, 1 walk, I was super impressed by him. So that brings us into the game on Saturday, game 2, 9/11. First of all, what a wonderful tribute. Just an overall unbelievable production, full of emotion. They had some of the Mets that were a part of the game, just wonderful. So shout out to the Mets organization for doing that and for the Fox broadcast. They did a wonderful job. Taijuan Walker takes the mound. Let's just jump right into the second inning. That was the big implosion.
Yeah.
He gives up 3 homers in the inning, 2 big 2-run homers, and then capped off with a solo shot from Judge.
And that Hickey home run, it looked like the ball was like at his eyes, and he somehow
it wasn't a bad pitch, and from a guy that doesn't hit many home runs. He had a big Higgy home run, 2-run shot. Then Gardner's, who struggled this year, hit a big 2-run home run, and then Judge, who hits many home runs at all points, jumped out to a 5-run lead. Big for me though, in the bottom of the second inning, the Mets answered. The Mets answered with 3. Just a wonderful run. It started with a hobby walk. Kevin Pillar had a big double, RBI double. McCann, who continued just an absolutely splendid weekend, had an RBI triple. And then Taijuan Walker helped out his own cause with an RBI single.
Lefty Walker, wonderful. Man.
Taijuan Walker looked good doing it too. Didn't look like he lucked into it. He did it. So
he's locked in.
That was a big answer for me. That shows some heart, some fight, some grit. So after that second inning, Taijuan Walker on the mound goes 12 straight to just mow him down. It ended up going 6, giving up those 5 big runs in the second inning. Bottom of the third, Javi hits a big home run to make it 5-4 bad guys. And then in the bottom of the 6th inning, James McCann, who just seems to be all over the place, hits a huge 2-run home run. Mets go up 6-5. Kevin Pillar adds another run in the bottom of the 7th, singling through, make it 7-5 good guys. And then comes the 8th, enter Trevor May, who has been wonderful since August 16th. He's gone 10 innings, given up only 1 run, but he didn't have it on Saturday. Gives up a single, a huge home run, and then another single that ties the ball game up 7-7. And then you bring in Aaron Loop, who does a wonderful job. Nobody on, or 1 run in, or 2 runs in, 1 runner on, gets a fly ball to right field, gives up a single first and second, gets a ground ball double play that Javi Baez kind of flat-footed throw, scores the go-ahead run for the Yankees, and they take the lead. And it just felt like this was a moment. They're up 8-7. In comes Lindor Conforto after walks. Pete Alonso steps up to the plate in the bottom of the 8th inning. You know, it felt like one of those chances for a signature moment from Pete. 9-11 game. And he flies out deep to the track in center field. If I thought it was a homer off the bat, I think everybody did.
I think Pete definitely thought
did, including the Yankees. It just felt like one of those moments. Unfortunately, it came up short. And then in the bottom of the 9th, there was another chance. We felt like James McCann, who's been absolutely lights out, crushing the ball, steps up in the bottom of the 9th. And I thought this was like, okay, Piazza hit the big home run. this might be McCann's moment. And then he gets out. So the Mets end up losing, kind of a heartbreaker here, 8-7. The big fifth inning from Taijuan Walker, the defensive miscue from Javi Baez on that possible double play. But other than that, the offense showed fight. The bullpen came in and outside of Trevor, who's been great, really shut it down. But this was kind of a tough loss.
Yeah, it was. And like every great game becomes a game of inches at some point, where there was the inches to center field on Pete's fly ball, or just Javi's throw going over the glove and stuff like that. The Mets played a good game here. It was fun to watch from beginning to end for me. You obviously want to come away with the win here and build momentum, but the Mets have just been a streaky series team in the first place. And that's why I didn't really feel discouraged going into this third game, because I knew that they wouldn't have their feet swept out from under them. They'd come back ready to play again, because the Mets have dealt with a ton of heartbreaking losses this year. And the 9-11 game, the Subway Series, it makes it no different for them. This is a team of resiliency and just kind of fighting to stay at 500. So game 3 kind of set up a big moment for both of these teams. Both of these teams really needed this game.
I think that was you pointed out a difference. You said you didn't feel like it was over for us after we lost that kind of like heartbreaker in game 2. It didn't feel like that to me either. And I think that's the difference, where when the Yankees kind of showed their cards a little bit, it felt impactful. It felt like their season's kind of waning. And for us, like for the Mets, it felt like, look, we've been playing good baseball. We fought back. We had a really tough inning. We ended up taking the lead, and their big boppers hit a couple of big home runs in spots, and it didn't feel like the end of the world. That was the difference for me. It really felt like the Mets are still playing good baseball. We're still alive, and we're moving forward. So
right, yeah. And both teams skidded into this series looking for wins. So even if you lose a heartbreaker, the mindset is still the same for both teams, and I think you had to treat it that way. So game 3 was the game that I was at. It was a ton of fun to watch. And I told everybody that was sitting with me from the get-go that Cookie was going to give up runs in the first inning, because that's what Cookie does, because we don't get him an opener for some reason. I don't know why. But it was the same story again. A couple runs in the first inning, pretty ugly pitching. I think he went 25 pitches in the first. Jim and Jake and Dave were all feeling pretty optimistic, but I was like, hang on, it's Clark Schmidt. You never know. And sure enough, the Mets get a run back in the bottom of the first. Cookie pretty much cruised after the first inning. Again, 5 innings pitched, 2 earned runs, 3 hits, 4 walks, 5 Ks, only 1 hit and 1 walk after the second inning. So he really just settled in. I've never seen a pitcher get stronger when he faces orders multiple times. I really haven't seen that in a long time. It's very perplexing to me. But Cookie continues to get it done in his own way. So I got to respect it for at least a little bit, but maybe we should get him an opener. Lindor's 3-run homer in the 4th off Clark Schmidt kind of spoiled the nice outing he was having. And that only happened because a Glaber error started the inning. So the Mets kind of got a gift there. All 3 of those runs pretty much unearned. So the Mets jumped out 4-2, but then Glaber kind of made up for it. Had a 2-run homer of his own that made it 5-4. That came off Familia, who looked like he had a nice sinker going that game. So I was shocked that Glaber was able to get one over the fence there, because that's a pretty decently hit ball. I mean, you could probably see it better on TV, right?
Yeah, I mean, it wasn't a terrible pitch. He went and got it, man. Just like you talked about the Higgy home run off Taijuan in game 2. These are like, that ball was not an easy pitch to hit for a home run, and Familia is not an easy guy to get the ball up on. So exactly. Yeah, you got to tip your cap sometimes.
Yep. And then Lindor, he came back with another solo shot. That one was to center field. That made it 6-4. He was actually jawing at Glaber a little bit when he was trotting around the bases, doing a little bit of a whistle sign. And I had not heard anything about this until Jim and Jake kind of gave me the rundown while we were watching the game. And it was good that they gave me the context, because this definitely escalated into something else entirely. Because Stanton's 2-run homer off Brad Hand the following inning in the 7th would tie the game. I'm not sure why we pitched to Stanton with a base open and 2 out. But we did, and we would have had lefty. But
I'll let you do the recap, but I want to go back and visit the Brad Hand approach.
We're going to expand on this moment a lot.
Good.
for the benches clearing and Brad Hand's pitching and all that. So we'll come back to this. The 2-run homer tied it 6-6 there. And then unbelievably, Lindor versus Chad Green again, reminiscent of Lindor's grand slam in the ALDS a couple years ago in the playoffs. He homers off Chad Green a 3rd time in the game. It gave the Mets a 7-6 lead. That place was the loudest area I think I've ever been in my my entire life. It was ear-piercingly loud, and of course I was contributing to it as well. I'm surprised I have a voice.
I was today fully prepared to handle the lead here, because I figured you would be hoarse.
No, I drank a little bit of tea this morning, which is not the usual thing for me, but I was like, I got to find a way to power through.
That's a
I'm feeling good right now.
Move.
exactly. So Lindor haunts Chad Green again. And then Diaz, of course, he's been in a rough go of things lately, but he's much better at home than he is away. And this was the biggest spot for Diaz all year. This was a game you cannot blow. I really didn't want this game to go over 5 hours because I wanted to get home for sure with a Mets win. He let runners get on second to third with a couple walks and a pass ball, but then fittingly so, Giancarlo Stanton hits a soft liner right to Francisco Lindor. That ends the game. The Mets win 7-6. They win this Subway Series, and they win the season series against the Yankees 4-2. And overall, just a fantastic win to build momentum into a very important week for the Mets. But first, before we get into any of that, let's go back to the 7th inning, because that's where a lot of the action happened in this game. So I want to hear your take on the Brad Hand inning for sure.
Yeah, so Brad Hand comes into the game, and there's a big spot. He's got a base open at first. He's got Joey Gallo on deck that he has struck out numerous times in his career. So he knows what the lineup is. And Stanton comes to the plate. So instead of intentionally walking from Luis Rojas, which a lot of people on Twitter were yelling about, why doesn't Luis make a move here? Well, I understand that thought process because he should be walked. But in this kind of situation, you have Brad Hand, who's a very experienced, very good reliever, should understand coming in like, hey, Giancarlo Stanton swings and misses a lot. So if I can get him to chase one early, maybe I can squeak out an easy strikeout here. What you do is use that nasty slider he has, throw a couple in the dirt, trusting your catcher, who knows the situation too, is going to expect something completely out of the strike zone, and either set up this far outside and the other on a fastball, or just be prepared to box something up and block it and keep it in front of you. And so instead, he decided to throw a fastball. It was supposed to be a way off, and he throws it and he pulls it and it yanks it in, and Stanton hits this huge homer. So there's a couple of things here. I don't blame Luis Rojas for not walking him intentionally, because you have to trust your players to understand the situation. I wouldn't know that. I'm sure my catcher would annoyingly be like, hey, let's be smart here. Let's bounce some breaking balls or point out to me. And he'll set up like an obnoxiously far off the out of the strike zone. And so he made a mental error by not just completely avoiding him, because you didn't have to attack him because you had a base open, and then you can go after Gallo. It was unnecessary for him to throw anything. A big mental error from Brad Hand. I don't blame Luis Rojas for it. I think McCann could have come out and talked to him beforehand, or just made sure, because he's new to the team. Just be like, look who's on deck. Let's just pitch around him.
Yeah, I think you got to know in that situation, especially because Hand brushed him back with a kind of high and tight fastball. I thought he was going to bury a slider right after that, see if he can get a swing and miss or something.
I was a little bit worried about that fastball too, because if you brush him back, and then you've seen what happens when you piss a guy that big off. Sometimes he gets angry. And so after that, you either just go, all right, I don't have it. I don't know where I'm throwing the ball. Let's just put him on first base yourself. Just be like, go. Or you just bounce a couple of breaking balls to see if he swings. Give yourself 2 pitches to see if he goes after it, because he swung at some really bad pitches before in his career. And if he goes fishing, you can try to attack him then and get him to keep chasing. And if he doesn't, just put him on. Just a couple of testers. And unfortunately, he didn't do that. Thank goodness for the Mets coming back, because this is going to kind of get brushed under. But that's got to be a mental lapse that he has to be talked about, and he should understand moving forward to have a little bit more knowledge, because he's not the closer anymore. He doesn't have to go after anybody. He hasn't had the most dominant season like he has in years past. You have to understand the situation and be like, look, I swallow my ego here and put a guy on that I don't need to face. It was a big miss. It was a pivotal point in the game, and it could have ended, a series win for the Mets with a series loss. So the Mets fought back, but that was a big mistake for me.
I thought that he came in a spot that was right for him, honestly, considering where we were in the order. I thought that we were going to see Gallo versus him probably with a force play, just make it a little bit easier on the infield. But yeah, I think it was either just him missing a spot or wanting to challenge a guy that maybe he used to be able to beat and can't anymore. But you gotta pitch around him there. It's Giancarlo Stanton. He's the hottest hitter on the Yankees for sure. And this kind of led into a big altercation, which I thought was pretty interesting, kind of reignited the fire of the Subway Series, because as Stanton's rounding the bases, he jaws at Lindor the way that Lindor jawed at Glaber. And it's a lot of whistling motions and the bench is clear. And for a person who wasn't filled in on everything, this was a very confusing environment to be in for fans, because not a lot of us knew what was going on. There were like fans fighting in the stands and there was players fighting on the field. So it was like, what's going on here? Apparently, the Yankees were whistling against Taijuan Walker when he was pitching. Allegedly. Sure. Apparently, when Taijuan Walker was pitching, he was tipping his pitches, and the Yankees were whistling allegedly to signal whatever pitch was being thrown. Lindor came in, I think, and told him basically what was going on. Or it was VR. I was wondering which infielder
something
it was.
Strange. He walked up to the mound and just made it aware, which is super pro. That's what you want. If you're, whether or not your guys see you tipping pitches or you think something fishy is going on, that's a mound visit. That's perfect. That's exactly what should happen.
And the only reason I buy the legitimacy of this all is because Walker would go on to retire 16 in a row after that mound visit from VR. That's truly where he settled in for the rest of the night. So it's a little fishy. The Yankees got called out on it, apparently. Lindor called Stanton out. Stanton called out the Mets for complaining about it. It was this whole thing. And it's a little silly, but also it's really fun to see crosstown rivals kind of bicker like that and make the game more intense than it already was. So from a spectator standpoint, it was awesome. Like, I have no problem with it happening because no one got hurt. And in a couple of days, it'll be forgotten. But for that moment, it made that game magnified like 10 times over. So I was cool.
It truly did. It was and I'm okay with both sides of it. I'm okay. So Taijuan Walker must have been tipping his pitches big time, right? So they had him. If they're whistling in from the dugout because they can see something on the field, I'm actually okay with that. If I'm pitching and I'm obviously tipping my pitches, they're not stealing signs. They're not watching video. They're not, relaying something secret. If I'm so obvious because it's, whether I'm fanning my glove out or it's the way I'm bringing my hand to my chin, if they're actually relaying that, that's my fault. I see that. I understand the other side of it too, to where, if you're not picking it up at the plate, or if it's not being signs stolen from second base or runner on second, and I don't have a tough enough sequence, I can see how relaying it would piss the Mets off. I'm okay with both ends. I think it's on Taijuan Walker to fix it. And I think Jonathan VR walking up to him and simply acknowledging it puts enough doubt in the Yankees lineup that, hey, maybe they told him what he was doing and he might not be doing it. So they didn't know for sure. That little bit of doubt switches the whole thing because you don't have confidence that you know what's going on. Either way, I like the fight that Lindor showed by jawing, because he says, hey, you're not going to do that to my guy. Even though I'm okay with it, I like his fire, protecting his guys. And I love Stanton's side of it. Stanton says, hey, if you're going to talk, you better have some proof. You better shut your mouth. Come at it. And then Lindor, I think, did a great job of covering it in his postgame, because he's like, look, I don't have set proof, so I'm not going to accuse anybody. I saw something that I thought was fishy, and I'm going to point it out. I'm going to protect my guys. So it was classy on all ends. Nothing happened that went too far. Both teams stuck up for themselves. It was wonderful. It was drama in the highest form, and I loved it.
Yeah, man. I think it fueled the game. It made it feel like a playoff game. And you know what? Lindor seemed like he thrived in that environment. And this will be the Francisco Lindor game for sure, for years to come. Sort of like his birth as a true Met here. Because with this
signed
game,
his name on this game.
He really did. Yeah, man. Like, he really did. He was the face of this game from all angles, pretty much. So that was awesome to see, because, you kind of waiting for this big signature moment. And I know that's kind of a broadcast cliche, but truly I was waiting for a Francisco Lindor signature moment forever.
There have been moments in the recent past where you're like, once he came off the DL, we're like, ooh, this is such a big at bat that they can swing the momentum of a season. And I think, last night's 3 home run game and a series win and the Yankees, and we still are in it, very much so in it. We're playing better baseball. Like, this could be that moment. It might be too little too late for the overall season, but it was definitely a push in the right direction in a big way.
And I know I'm getting ahead of myself here, because this will be a long time off-season discussion, but if games like this don't make Javi Baez want to stay in New York, I don't think anything will. Because that tandem of them, doing the little chirp motion and walking towards that fight together, that looked like a duo I want to see for many years to come. So
yeah. I mean, it's I like those two together. I think they balance each other out and they push in the right way. I would love to see them in New York for a long time. Again, too far ahead, and I have no idea what kind of dollars they're going to demand out of Baez, but it's purely entertaining. Those two definitely have each other's back, and rightfully so. And I enjoyed all of it. Nobody got out of line. Nobody tried to be too tough. It wasn't false bravado. It was two guys representing what they believed in, and in a proper way. Like I loved it.
Well, speaking of our guy Javi Baez, actually, the Shea Station merch line actually has a fantastic El Mago shirt right now that you can go check out, along with some other awesome Shea Station merch at shop.jomboymedia.com. If you're watching on YouTube, you know that me and Jerry are rocking our Shea Station merch today. Very comfy, looks good. I love the blue on you, by the way. I think that's like a perfect blue.
It's a color like this, the JM Apple. I saw it on the designs. I was like, man, I gotta have it. I literally, and it's so comfy. It's one of those t-shirts where you buy it and you're a little worried. You know, if you buy something off the internet, you don't know how it's going to feel. This is a top-notch quality t-shirt, so I'm pumped to wear it.
Yeah, so the Jomboy Media merch store has a bunch of essentials that you got to go check out. They got new tie-dye hoodies, pocket tees, dad hats, pretty much anything you can think of for all their different podcasts and different teams. We're also working on a Francisco Lindor whistle shirt, so definitely keep your eye out for that. That should be hitting the store pretty soon because our graphic designers are the best in the biz. They do an awesome job. Shout out Blake and Matt there. But yeah, so obviously your favorite podcast, the Shea Station, we also got merch, and we can help you out here because we have a promo code. Believe it or not, we got our first promo code. Look at us, Jared.
I love it. I feel official.
So if you use code Shea at checkout, you can get 15% off your entire order. So again, go to shop.jomboymedia.com, click on the Jomboy Essentials collection, and use code Shea at checkout to get 15% off your entire order. Nice, dude. Look at us hitting the big time.
I feel like a real pro, even though it's our own company's ad.
We'll take it, man. We'll take it.
I'm for it.
So we had plenty of key performances here in the series, more offensive ones. The one pitching one for me was Tyler McGill for sure, with the best start of his career, 7 innings pitched, 2 earned runs, 10 Ks. Awesome to see. I hope he could steady that momentum a little bit. The one that stood out to me, I don't know if you can count this as a key performance, but I definitely found it key in the team's performance in the second game, was Pete Alonso, who for being the face of New York in my mind in some aspects, went 0 for 13 in a big Subway series. He looked like he was making some hard contact here and there, especially on that dead center fly ball that I thought was going out, but he ends up with an 0-4 in this series.
I feel like he's been great. He's been great all year. I think he's going to be just fine. I think I really kind of look like he felt the moment a little bit and he was pressing and when he didn't need to. He doesn't need to hit the ball 600 feet. He's strong enough. But this lineup showed so much balance, so much pop in different places that we didn't need him to be his usual Pete self. So 0 for 13, but he really did. He was still a presence in the lineup. He wasn't an easy out by any means. He still made his presence felt, protected the guys around him. So you're allowed an offer, especially in a series win. So
especially because a lot of other guys stepped it up, specifically James McCann. James McCann had 3 extra base hits in this series. I don't remember the last time he had extra base hits in consecutive games, but it's been a while. He went 3 for 9, collected 6 RBIs along with a home run, 3 walks. So he was doing it on all sides of the plate there. Lindor puts up a 4 for 10. All 4 hits are home runs, which is awesome because that puts his total up to 17. He might get 20 now. I didn't think 20 was even in the question, but he has a huge series, 4 walks to go with that as well. And Javi Baez continues to do the damn thing in true Cespedes style. 9 for 15 in this series, 2 homers, 2 doubles, 4 RBIs, 2 walks. Again, Javi's walking like consistently. That's so cool.
His walks have led to runs as well.
I know. It's so interesting.
He had 3 big stolen bases in this, and he's a good hitter. Like I think his approach, like here's a quick breakdown of what I think his approach is. You have so many guys that check swing. I don't think you'll ever see a check swing because he has decided that if he's swinging, he doesn't care where the pitch is on. When he decides to swing, he's just letting it rip. I think it might be a healthier approach than, trying to stop it. Like, I don't know if he's guessing and deciding, all right, I'm swinging at this pitch no matter what. But I think as soon as he says yes, that trigger is pulled and he starts that whole thing. I love it. And so he, out of his hand, if he thinks it's going to be a strike, he swings. And if he thinks it's going to be a ball, you see him work. He works walks. He does it.
And I'm sure
it's not all guess.
Yeah, I'm sure that approach can be maddening for fans when it doesn't work, but frankly, it's working right now. It just is, and you kind of have to enjoy it.
I've seen him miss pitches by the largest swing and miss I've ever seen in my life. But this guy is an incredible hitter. So I really think it's just instead of like trying to check swing and hold it, he's just like, well, that's a strike, and I'm cool with it. I like his approach. I think it's probably healthier for his hands, his wrist, his obliques, like his back and hips, to just let it eat, man.
I just love watching him swing with one hand and sort of flick the bat. You know how he does sometimes? And like, even when he does that, he's still hitting like 95 exit velocity ground balls. Like, it's insane.
Strong man. Because he's committed. He's committed to that swing at all times. And so if he's swinging, all of a sudden it's a little bit different. He makes a subtle adjustment. So I don't know for a fact that that's what he's deciding. But since he came over, I don't think I've seen a check swing. I don't know how you look for that, but I've been paying attention, and I haven't seen him try to check a swing yet. And yeah, don't do that.
Well, somehow, some way, through all of the ebbs and flows and ups and downs and disappointing play of this Mets season, we're suddenly in the wild card race, which I didn't think was ever going to be a factor. I mean, we're 5 games back of the division right now, and the Braves continue to beat teams that they should beat, and it kind of just looks like they have the East wrapped up. Now, I know there have been larger leads blown with shorter amount of time, but I really do think Atlanta has found their footing, and I don't think in my opinion, I don't think they're going to relinquish the Eastern crown. I don't know.
I agree. I agree with that, but it's not out of the picture yet. I wouldn't erase trying to win the East. That would be my target as a player, still as a team. I'm looking to win the division because it's literally a better option. If we fall into the wild card by playing well, that's great. I wanted to make one note. Edwin Diaz had a big save, huge one, but he didn't look like Edwin Diaz. So this is the one where last time I was talking about his pure stuff is just so electric. Like, he sawed off Stanton at the end, let that ball run back a 2-seam up and into him, and just that weak pop-up caused by just a shattered bat. But he didn't throw any sliders really that were really good ones. And I'm worried a little bit about his slider, about his mechanics. Something's off, because in that at bat, all he had to do once he was ahead was throw that slider that started on the plate away and ended up this far outside, and Stanton would have swung and missed. It would have been no doubt an easy punch out, big win. But he didn't have comfort. He didn't have the confidence in his ability to do that. So he went to his fastball. I think that's a little bit worrisome because he didn't have his A stuff. But I also see it as an encouraging factor because he had confidence that he could still do the job. And he trusted his stuff, let it rip, let that fastball fly, and it worked. And a little worried again, moving forward, something I'm going to be paying attention to. Hopefully he can lock it back in. He's been throwing a lot, like all those guys have been. So maybe it's just a little bit of fatigue. But it's something to pay attention to.
I will say, well, for the first thing being, if Diaz had been consistently good headed into this game, I don't think I would be as worried, because that was a crazy atmosphere. And like, you know what, jitters, they make sense there. But because he's been, sort of streaking badly into that, it was definitely concerning. I will say he did throw a nice slider against Gardy to get a strikeout there. So with those 2 walks, he did get 2 strikeouts as well. It's just getting it on a consistent basis. It didn't look like he always had the confidence in throwing his secondary pitches. And, his fastball can be erratic as hell. So like, you're obviously not going to be too confident in that as well. And for me, I kind of stole this from Twitter a little bit, but when I see Edwin Diaz throw his first pitch and it's a ball, I immediately start worrying for the rest of the inning. I think if he gets ahead of hitters, he becomes somewhat, and you could say this for any pitcher really, but with Edwin Diaz's stuff, if he can get ahead of a hitter early, he becomes so much more powerful. There's so much more opportunity in his hand with what he's able to do. I'm
not throwing, doubt on Edwin Diaz and his stuff, but it's something that I'm going to pay attention to next time he comes out, is if he can put that slider, glove side away from a righty and throw it from a strike to a ball, which is important because those are his swings and misses.
I would watch a Jerry Blevins Edwin Diaz analysis for sure.
I would break that down.
I think that would be great for the YouTube channel. Ooh, a breakdown. Yo, we should coin that. Did we just trademark that? I think that's ours. That's pretty good.
Oh, it's us. We did that. We came up with that.
Yeah. So through all this, through the incredibly stressful win yesterday, the Mets are 3 games back of the wild card. They're right in the thick of things. And this week, I know we've talked about a lot about important stretches for the Mets trying to build up ground. These are not easy teams to beat, but these are teams that are right in front of the Mets in the wild card race. They have 3 with the Cardinals and then 3 with the Phillies, and all 6 are at home, which is good for the Mets because they are a very good home team. The Reds and Padres have been kind of skidding, really. They haven't been playing good baseball, haven't been scoring a lot of runs, so they continue to slide down and make this second wild card spot pretty accessible for the Mets. So this is a huge week for sure.
This is a big series. This is an emotional one where we're coming off a high of the 9/11 series. Huge crowds, very, very emotional games, big series wins. We got to make sure that this veteran team comes forth and reestablishes it right away in the clubhouse. That this is a big series too. Reset. Don't worry about all the highs of the last series, and you got to push forward. This is a veteran team in the Cardinals that know what's going on. They can maximize on mistakes. So they got to lock it right back in, and that's what I expect to see from such a professional group of Mets players. And this is what leadership looks like, and it should be a fun series.
Yeah, so the Mets have the opportunity to leapfrog 2, maybe more spots in those standings. But the Cardinals, they came off a 4-game set with the Dodgers that they split, and then they faced a pretty decently hot Cubs team, surprisingly. So that's what they had headed into this series. And then the Phillies have been skidding, really, even though they've kind of had an easy go of things. They had to play the Brewers. They lost 2 or 3 there, but then they lost 3 or 4 at home to the Rockies. So not too much. I don't know what's going on there in Philly. I think these are games they have to win, but it's good for us at the very least. So hopefully we're getting a Phillies team that's going to come in very cold into Citi Field, and we can kind of get revenge for that sweep.
This is a flash to that series. I'm going to treat Bryce Harper like I treat Juan Soto. Don't let this guy beat you. Bryce Harper's putting together a possible another MVP type season. He's being overshadowed by a lot of guys because it's, the Phillies are the Phillies and whatever, but Harper doesn't beat us. That's going too far. We're still looking at the Cardinals. But you gotta peek ahead.
So yeah, let's check out what we got going on for the Cardinals. Game 1 is going to be a toughie. I'll be at this game tonight as well, believe it or not. Yeah, there you go. Dedicated fan. Rich Hill, who's had a nice string of starts. The last 4 starts, he's been pretty damn good. He's going to go up against Adam Wainwright, who is basically a Mets supervillain at this point. Somehow still in the league, somehow still cranking a sub-3 ERA. So good for Waino, man. Seriously.
This is a battle of the old men. I love it. I love to see it. Yeah. Wainwright has had such a incredible year. I'm really excited to see it. I hope he gets his butt kicked today. But he's put together a very impressive season. He's done one of those kind of CC Sabathia, figure out how to pitch with lesser stuff to become a pitcher, kind of a lost art in today's game, where guys just sometimes when you don't have it, you just get your butts kicked. Whereas Waino was like, all right, this is what I have. How do I do this? And he's really putting together an incredible season. So it'll be good to see the Mets. They need to be really patient, especially on those curveballs. He's got a huge curveball, so that's something to pay attention to. Don't chase it, make him throw strikes, and we'll see.
Yeah, so the big thing for Waino is he's going to go deep in the game. He's gone, I think, 7 or more in pretty much his last 3 or 4 starts. He went 8 1/3 one of his recent starts as well. And Goldschmidt, Paul Goldschmidt is he's swinging a hot bat right now, and he bats really well against Rich Hill, 474 with a home run. Baez, who's been hot for us, not a great hitter against Waino, 156 and 32 at bats. Most of those obviously came as a Cub. But yeah, so this is going to be a tough one to win. The Mets do have a lot of momentum going into this game, but Wainwright has been, kind of a tough cookie for the Mets to crack pretty much the entire time he's been in the major leagues.
That's kind of like one of those previews I talked about. Baez swings and misses a lot at balls out of the zone, and Wainwright understands that. And so he's going to throw a lot of pitches that look like strikes out of his hand. And that's why you need the guys in your lineup that can be patient. The Pete Alonsos, the Michael Confortos that can wait a guy out, make sure he throws strikes. Yeah, this is going to be fun, man. This is going to be a good series. They've got a really good team. And so do we. So
yeah, this team is really starting after a pretty bad first half. They're really starting to piece it together with some decent play against some tougher teams. And now they're kind of getting into an easier stretch here. So the Mets really need to kind of take out their momentum a little bit before they get to those easier teams. Game 2 is going to be Marcus Stroman against Jake Woodford. Neither team has a batter that's faced the pitcher more than 10 at bats. So it's going to be a game of unfamiliarity there, but Stroh is coming off a really sharp start in Miami, 6 1/3, 1 and run, 7 Ks. He didn't get a win in that game because the Mets unfortunately lost by 1 run because that's what we do. But Stroh here for game 2 is very comforting against a younger guy in Jake Woodford. And I do like the probable for game 3 too. I'm feeling good about game 2 and game 3. because Tyler McGill is going to take the bump again. And I think he's feeling real good after that Yankee start, for sure.
He's facing off against Lester, who's another one of those, veteran guys, lefties, which is normally not our forte. But Lindor is hitting 308 with a homer off Lester, and Lester's not the same pitcher that he's been in years past. And Tyler McGill is coming off just that 7-inning, 10 punch-out performance against the stout Yankees lineup. So we're looking for another series win. We got to take 2 out of 3 here. I don't care which order it gets. You've learned from your past mistakes of being like, this is the one we have to win. So you just want to see 2 out of 3, it's so cliche. And again, we just keep repeating ourselves, but win a series, man. We're doing it. We're fighting, it's a fun time. It's a fun time to be a Mets fan. There's optimism. I listened to the Talking Yanks a podcast last night. I listened to it this morning.
The post game, yeah.
I listened to they're on the other end of it. They're like, this is over. What are we doing? And they made a lot of questionable moves, bringing in Heaney. Like sitting.
That kind of worked out though. I couldn't believe it.
It worked out for them, but it's not the right choice.
No, not at all.
Out. You've got sitting Stanton and Voit in game 1. Like, I don't know what they're doing. I don't know what the formula is, but it's not working. There's bad vibes on that side and good vibes on our side.
Yeah. I mean, you talk about formulas. The Mets seem like they kind of have a winning formula right now. They think they figured out a solid batting order. I think Lindor's really getting this footing. And you mentioned left-handed started pitchers. The Mets are starting to hit left-handed started pitchers. We knocked around Jordan Montgomery, which I couldn't believe. I thought he was going to dominate us. So recently it's been much better. And I think these guys are just kind of figuring out, just overall. And I think it's ever since Baez was infused into this lineup because he kills lefties. And I think that's just kind of rubbed off on everybody. So I hope the Mets tee off on John Lester because they should. But yeah, this is a big series with the Cards, and then it's a big series with the Phillies right after. And you went 4-4 against the Nats and Marlins in those away games. You didn't win the latter series, and now you gotta. I mean, I know we keep saying time's running out, and then somehow every time we come back, the Mets are still in kind of a playoff position. But we can't say it forever. You got like a couple more weeks of the season left, and that's it.
This is it. These are games. This is you can't let these go. These are big time. Every game is emphasized here. A little bit bigger magnitude, and so you just got to keep playing your brand of baseball that's been really good. We've been competitive. We've been pitching well, having big hits. So let's just keep moving forward. Keep trying to win every single day and let the chips fall where they may.
Yeah, man. Well, it was on this day 6 years ago, 6 or 7. I can't do the math in my head. Not a math pod. 6. There you go. Daniel Murphy in 2015 hit a game-tying 3-run homer in the 9th of the first, after the first 2 hitters were retired against the Braves. The Mets were in the middle of their 2015 World Series playoff push, and they scored 3 in the top of the 10th to beat the Braves 10-7. That's your today in Mets history. So kind of reminiscent of the position we're in right now. Obviously, those 2015 Mets had a full head of steam. We're already in a better spot than we are now, but it's the same thing here. And I really relate this team to the 2016 team, where they really didn't put it together until those last 3 weeks of the season. And then they got incredibly hot and went to the wild card game. So anything can happen, really. Even you're a 500 team, you're basically starting with a clean slate here. So just go out and be a winning team for the rest of the season. That's all you can ask.
A little hat tip to Daniel Murphy for that run.
Absolutely.
That really created, he became a completely different hitter. Like, this was his final transformation. He became a butterfly for the next 4 or 5 years. So
yeah, man,
wonderful run.
The Kevin Long effect. Yeah.
The K-Long. He just decided, I think it was so strange. Like halfway through that season, not even halfway, towards the end of that season, he's like, I think I'm just going to try to hit home runs right now and just lift the ball. And
I think that's a good idea.
Oh. Yeah, because he's always a great bat to ball contact hitter, hard to strike out, just a good hitter. And then he just started to add damage. Those doubles turned into homers.
I mean, Murph hit like 7 homers in the playoffs, but I don't even think he eclipsed 20 in 2015. I think he really just kind of hit for power only really towards the last month.
I think that was the key to kind of like the Mets not re-signing him, because we're like, is this who he is? Because you're going to have to pay him to be the guy he was in the playoffs. And we don't know if that was just a flash in the pan or, and it wasn't. He went to Washington and
second in MVP voting the very next year. And obviously hindsight's 2020 and good for Murph for getting the bag. But yeah, that was a guy I think the Mets should have kept around, but that's a moot point. It's anyway, in the rear view. We're just dwelling at this point. But let's dwell a little bit more for our, common Jog and Jerry's memory, always at the tail end of the episode here. This one's a good one. Another nice little come from behind comeback win for us. It also kind of counts as a today in Mets history too. September 13th, 2018, the Mets were down 3-2 to the Marlins in the ninth, and Jerry struck out the side in the top of the ninth against Miami, kind of showing out, keeping the Mets in the game. And then Conforto and Todd Frazier hit back-to-back solo shots for a walk-off win, 4-3. I don't know if you remember this one. It's a few years ago at this point, 2018, kind of a forgettable season too.
I try to forget 2018 as much as possible. That was my most difficult season as a pro. It was like a really weird, strange season in general. I'm sure Mets fans feel the same way about it. It's kind of very forgettable struggle, but hey, that's a bright spot. Striking out the side.
Yeah.
I'm for it.
Yeah, so that was a nice little win there.
Give those 2018 Mets.
Yeah, exactly. But
how many
that was a
did I
tough
end
season.
Up? That I mean, did I get that? Might be like my last win ever. I don't know if I got any in 19.
You did get the win in that game, yeah. I don't know. No, you must have got a win in 19, right? Come on.
I don't know. Who knows? You know.
I like that I can type in Jay into Google and Jerry Blevins immediately comes up.
Well, you're looking up jogging Jerry's memory.
Yeah,
it didn't jog my memory.
You got one.
You got one in 19?
Yep.
Against who?
Let me find it. Let me get that game.
Oh, please.
This is that live research, guys. That's what
this is the key. This is the stuff you sign on for.
Yeah. You won a game on June 14th against the Phillies where you pitched 1 inning, walked 2, and struck out 1. You guys won 9-8. I'm assuming it's a walk-off. Yeah, the Braves put up 3 in the ninth. So you got the win there. Who'd you strike out? I want to say, let's see who you struck out. You struck out Bryce Harper.
I was going to say, I probably walked Rhys Hoskins on purpose.
Walked Gene Segura. And
and
you walked Rhys Hoskins right after.
Yeah, yep. Segura was probably an accident, and then Rhys Hoskins is probably Segura an accident, Hoskins on purpose. Well, that's a little,
yeah.
We're talking about the Brad Hand situation, but
there you go.
I picked my poison, especially at that point in my career. It was like, all right, I'll attack who I feel stronger against.
Yeah, you felt stronger against Jay Bruce. JT Realmuto stole third on you. Kind of dirty. Kind of forget how fast he is. Yeah, that's cheating because you're lefty. That's not even fair. Catcher. Come on.
You can have it if that's what you want, JT. If you needed that to sign your contract, you're welcome.
All right, man. That was a fun little excited episode there, but I'm hoping we're just as excited later in the week here. After this card series.
I feel like your presence in Citi Field, it's just rocking, might be a 6-1. Great thing. Let's keep it going.
Just saying, 6-1.
Who are you going? Are you going to the game with more Yankees fans?
No, tonight I'm taking my lovely lady, but she is a Yankees fan, but she's not a huge baseball fan, so I'm going to make her wear some Mets gear. She'll be fine.
I was going to say, give her some Jomboy.
Oh, she'll be wearing a Shea Station.
Give her some merch. I love it.
There you go. So yeah, she'll be rocking that. Exactly.
Be a man and female of the people.
Go check out the Jomboy Media shop, guys. There's some heat there. Just saying.
What's the code?
Promo code Shea, 15% off.
There you go.
Just saying.
Boom. Look at that.
So thank you guys for tuning in. We will see you again on Thursday when the Mets have their off day, first off day in a while for them. And I think probably the last of the season, or I think second to last or something like that. But yeah, big series coming up. Waino tonight. So hopefully the Mets can get the jump on him, put together some wins and gain some ground. That's all you can really ask.
Well, thank you for tuning in. I am Jerry Blevins.
I'm Jolly Olive, aka Jack.
And let's go Mets.
We'll see you guys next time. Thanks for tuning in.
See you.